Yeah, it's been a long process. It's been about 9 years from the because the film started off as a short film that I released from the concept to the short. I released a short in 2007, and then it went to 23 festivals, and the audience never wanted it to end. I'm like, okay, I think there's a feature here. And so I developed it into a feature. The feature script and the fundraising took about 2 years. And then we shot in 2010 at an abandoned gas station in Detroit. It was totally shut down. There was no electricity. It was crazy. It's a very long process to get it up and running. All those products, we borrowed all of those products from a wholesaler who just supported the project. The Skittles, everything. We got Skittles on board and all those products on board. So it was a very long process, and as you can see, like the film mixes a lot. I mean, there's tons of people in the film. There's storylines, and so I think we took our time because we wanted to, get it right. And of course, making your first film always takes forever. It takes 10 times longer than you think it's going to take, and all of that. So. Yeah.
Well, you are Arab American, right?
Uh-huh.
And you grew up actually not in Detroit, but in Lansing.
Yep, I grew up in Lansing.
And then you went to film school.
Yep, in Detroit.
And then you got interested in this incredible story of Arab Americans growing up, and then the whole community. So one question I have is, it's a lighthearted, generally comedy, but there's a serious, the brother's attitude. He's out having fun. Are you making a point about double standards with Arab American men? And can you talk about that?
Sure, yeah. I never really set out to make a point. It was just, these are all the people I know, and if you can, when you see the film, there's like really a bouquet of Arab men. Sammy's different from the brother, who's different from Mike, who's different from the friends, and who's different from the father. So I wanted to make sure to present people with not like one sort of stereotype, but rather just a lot of different types of people, because I think, whoever you are, like, you can, like, stereotypes are weird because it's like, yes, there are some people who do this, but I think they can be harmful when you just keep repeating these images of this one particular type of person. It doesn't mean that person doesn't exist, it just means that there's people beyond that. Yeah. So I try to present like more of a bouquet of characters. And also with all the customers too, there's many different types of people that walk in and out. And my favorite reaction to the brother so far, some people are like, does that really happen? Sometimes, like one time in Toronto, when we premiered the film, there was an Arab guy who said, why are you making us look like this? Or he was uncomfortable with the depiction of Fadi. And it's, you have to explain, like, this is one person. It doesn't reflect you. If you can't identify with that character, it doesn't mean that it's you,
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's...
But this was a realistic depiction of a certain person that type of person you would encounter.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and it doesn't have to be an Arab guy either. There's just a lot of people like Fadi. But one of my favorite reactions was in New York, and somebody asked, does this really happen? Are there really people like this? And this Arab girl in the back of the room was like, yes, this happens, So it just depends on like, my brothers were never like that, but somebody else's brothers were, so.
I just have to make a comment. Normally,
I kept seeing the bulletproof glass and like these Arab guys behind the glass, when I first moved to Detroit. Because Detroit was the first time I lived within such a highly concentrated Arab American community. There's nothing else like it in the country, like Detroit and Dearborn. And then it was just these repeat images of like Arab guys behind the glass. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I just felt like the glass has to change your perspective. To me, it instantly criminalizes people. Whoever you are, when you walk up, you're a criminal. It's there to protect you from them. And so, and I felt like this perspective has never been explored before. So it was important for me. And this is really the first time we've ever seen an Arab American film about really our generation. These second generation, 20-somethings, and the depiction is like, not like this immigration or identity struggle. It's there, within the characters, but it's not about issues. It's about just the everyday, like, slice of life. And I think that's why people are connecting with it, and that makes me very, very happy. So, okay, my friend Rana her brother-in-law hired us, we were in college, and her brother-in-law hired us one year to sell fireworks in like this abandoned storefront. And we were so annoyed and like bored all day, and there was these big counters. So we would just like take turns taking naps like underneath the counter. And I just remember, and this was before I went to film school and I knew I was a filmmaker. And I just remember being under the counter like, this is hilarious. It was just like a big joke for us, like it was a hilarious joke. And then I just remember being under the counter and like I'm looking up, I'm like, this is an interesting perspective. And then when the story came to me, I was like, oh my God, we can use under the counter, like my experience with under the counter to create this sort of love scene. And then that grew into, once I drew it out, it grew into like this bigger metaphor of these sort of Arab American relationships where, you know, we're so familial, like Arab men and women, especially like young, you know, of our generation, we're so like, we have so much in common, but there's still like this taboo against dating and touching each other, and like there's still this sense of preservation like for marriage, and you know, there's these old traditions that we're hanging on to constantly. And so the under the counter became this metaphor of like, okay, we're so close, but there's like this piece of wood that's between them.
I really felt that. Yeah,
Right.
That night really got that.
Right,
I loved
exactly,
that part of
yeah.
it,
The scene where he's touching the wood,
Yes.
Yeah.
obvious
It was
lust. It's,
Right.
it's wonderful.
Right, yeah, thank you.
A very nice scene.
Thank you, yeah. Oh, there was another.
You had a beautiful interplay between the characters. That was just wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering why you chose to end it the way you did.
So the ending was, this is what I didn't want in the ending. I didn't want him to go save her, you know, or to get her or anything like that. I wanted her to leave on her own, and then him to make a decision on his own to also leave. You know, if you notice, there's no like heroes, you know, in the film, because I think everybody is their own hero. You know, like when you actually make a decision to take a step in your life, that's a very heroic act. You know, it's not about like saving somebody's life. And so, so we had like a choice to either keep it going or to just end it. And I decided to just end it because it just felt right. And the main thing for me was I wanted them to leave together. That was, you know, and to show that they took a step in their life. And I also didn't want to tell anybody where they were going because it was always so important to her. You know, she had a superstition that if you tell somebody, because it is a big superstition, like within our culture, that they'll say a word, like if something good is happening to you, you just zip it, or else somebody's going to curse you. And so, so yeah, I didn't want to tell anybody where she was going. And so I just wanted to keep that a secret at the end and make sure they actually left together.